Hi again, my name is Bill. Sorry about the glasses. Now, this is video number 3. My last video began to explain the ozone. It explained Noah's flood. I don't think I related it to Noah's flood at the time at the last video. So this is what it was explaining: Noah's flood. So, according to Scripture, it had never rained before that day. A mist came up from the earth and watered the earth. If the atmosphere from inside was so under so much pressure, then when it would come out here, it would mingle with our atmosphere and it would push our atmosphere higher and push our ozone higher. The air being heavier than the ozone would push the ozone higher, stretching it. So maybe it was this thick. After the flood, it was this thick. And after the expanding earth, it was even thinner. I believe that the expanding earth took place at the time of the flood, so disregard what I just said. Man lived for 1,000 years, or up to 1,000 years, according to Scripture. And if you believe Scripture, you believe that. So, something happened at the time of the flood to cause them to go from 969, which is what Methuselah lived to, who died on the year of the flood, probably in the flood, to at the most 120, 124 years today. Scripture says your days will no longer be, or your days will be 120. Right. So you've got a thinner ozone. If ozone was the actual canopy that it talks about in Scripture, that covered the earth and prevented us from dying off early, protecting us from the ultraviolet rays of the sun, then by stretching that thinner, you're going to have more ultraviolet rays penetrating. Trees won't grow as tall, people won't live as long, yada yada yada. And it explains that. So many things are explained with this understanding. And when I get into prophecy, all of a sudden it just opens up like a flower. Things that people don't understand, and they say it's symbolic of this or symbolic of that, they're all of a sudden they're obvious. They're just exactly what the word says. So anyway, let's not go there yet. We have an ozone that's thinner. We have rainfall that's never occurred before because the atmosphere is higher, and now when the water evaporates, it goes to higher altitudes, cooling and descending rather than just going up and in a mist. So that part's explained. The earth is a lot bigger after this flood. I believe that's when the earth broke open and it expanded. The continents. Look at that video there. Let's do a search on YouTube for expanding earth. You'll find it there. It's not hard to find, and it's so obvious. It's like this. This is, once you have enough information, this becomes so obvious. People are going to get on here with comments and argue black as white that this is not true, and make their foolish comments and stuff. But it's pretty hard. Anyway, so now you've got the hollow earth, you've got the ozone thinner, you've got the rainfall. At that time, it's very possible that the hole was open, that the because the ice had been broken up, the hole was open. Now, I think I should explain this now. There were arguments for years that the continents were shifting. Now they're trying to tell us they're not shifting, but I still believe they do. I think the arguments don't hold water. The pyramid of Cheops, I believe it is, in Egypt. If I'm pronouncing it right, but okay, that's what I say. The first time they measured the the pyramid and how it aligned with the true north, it was off by so many degrees. Now, for the argument's sake, I'm going to say 2,000 feet, whatever. The next guy that measured it said, that guy's all wrong, I remeasured it, it's only 1,000 feet. So they had this big battle back in whatever the year was. Sherlock Holmes days. And so that they had this big argument, and this happened in quite a few areas of knowledge. But since then, they found that it's even closer than what the second guy said. So what they've conclusion they've arrived at is that the pyramid is actually turning. Now the pyramid can't turn, but the land it's on can turn. If the continent is actually turning, they said that it would line up. At one time I read that they said that it would line up with the true north in the year 2000, and they believed that that was the second coming of the end of the world, and the UFOs would all come back, and all this stuff didn't happen. But that's not my point. My point is that the Earth is shifting, that the continents are moving, and this moving is all part of the expanding Earth. It's not, it hasn't stopped, and we still have earthquakes. Look at Japan lately. I mean, gee. Never mind HARP or anyway. Just look at Japan and the movements around the Earth. So when you look at the North Pole, I believe what's taken place is that the hole is actually flooded with ocean water. If you how am I going to explain it? I know how to explain it, I just don't know which way to start. If you draw the water away from the North Pole, then the hole would be exposed. If you have a high tide, then the water in the North Pole, the water is piled up in the North Pole. There's no hole. It's flooded. Gravity around the pole is different than gravity here, because you have gravity is mass attracts. So here gravity is pulling us down. But around the lip, say the lip is some people say 1,500 miles across. I don't think it's that big, but let's say it's 1,000 miles across for argument's sake. At the hole, in the center of that hole, the gravity is pulling toward the lip of the hole. It's not pulling down, it's pulling toward the mass, and the mass is at the lip of the hole. So water over that hole is going to go inside, like that, and all around. So it'd be like a bathtub when you pull the plug. If the water's higher, you have no hole. If you take the water away, all of a sudden a whirlpool starts to appear, like in a bathtub when you pull the plug. As the water is decreased to the point where it's only 5,000 above, or 500 feet above sea level out here, it's only going to be 500 feet above sea level around the lip. So then you've got a real fast whirlpool. And if you lower it a little bit more to 200, you got a hole. You got ocean all around it. You could sail inside and not even know you sailed inside. And that's what a lot of them argue, that the reason you can't find it is. But I personally don't think so. I'm going to give you some scripture later on that'll tell you that it's not there. And I believe this is why, just as with the pyramid, some people say they find it, and some people say it doesn't exist because they can't find it. Because one day it's there, the next day it's gone. In the summertime, as we're closer to the sun, the gravitation of the sun is stronger, and it happens to pull at the equator more than the poles. So it's going to pull the water away from the poles. Now say you've got a planet, Venus, between you and the sun, or in that area. Its gravity affecting as well multiplying or adding that to the sun's gravity, and you got low tide because the moon's in the right place. Well, that's going to create enough gravity to pull the water away from and cause it to pile up at the equator, pulling it away from the North Pole, exposing the hole. And this Jensen and his son, maybe that's the time that they sailed inside, saw the giants, sailed back outside. Now, I don't know, God knows, but there's possibilities. I still believe it's hollow. I believe it does open, and I believe it does close. I believe it's closed in the wintertime, our wintertime. When the Earth is away from the sun, I believe it's closed. When the Earth is closer to the sun, I believe it's open. At high tide. No, at low. They're low tide. So now, that being a possibility, that's enough. We'll do that. So let's go on to prophecy. Now, prophecy tells me, I'm not going to talk about the Muslim prophecy and stuff, I will do that later. The prophecies about creation talk about an asteroid hit. I'm going to go to that on the next video because I got a knock on the door.